YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we are here for your start and sit for the running back position of week 2. Again, this is going to be always based off of full PPR or half PPR, so if it is a standard league or any of questions, hit me up in the comments down below. We're going to jump right into this. So week 2 is here. There's a game on Thursday night, so make sure you guys are prepared because there are some running backs that are dealing with injuries. Mostert has been officially out. Achane is game time decision. So now the chaos is already beginning for the NFL season when it becomes waiver wire frenzy and, of course, players going to miss time. So make sure you guys have, if you haven't already, ask some questions. Maybe you got to make some trades. I'd love to help you out with your lineup. And, of course, these are your obvious starts at the running back position. These are your guys that should be in here. It's not as long of a list as I would like to say, just because there are some bad matchups this week, or again, running backs are already dealing with injuries. Now, the first running back I'm going to mention as a good start this week is going to be Jonathan Taylor versus the Packers. Look, Taylor didn't have an amazing game week 1, only finishing as RB 30 and only 10 points. His saving grace was that touchdown that gave him the double-digit performance. He also only averaged 3 yards a carry and didn't look explosive. The problem that I have with this is the Indianapolis Colts were supposed to have an amazing offensive line, and they're just not really dominating as of right now. Texans do deserve more credit defensively, which is why I like JT this week, because I do think the Texans did a really good job of game planning against Jonathan Taylor. But the Packers just allowed 3 touchdowns to Saquon Barkley, and there's a good chance that this is a game for Jonathan Taylor to have a better outing. Do I expect Saquon's performance? No, I don't think he's going to get 3 touchdowns like Saquon, but I do think he's going to get 1, maybe 2 in this game, or at least a more, I would say, better outing. 4 yards a carry, 70 yards on the ground, maybe a couple catches and touchdown, and get him into that 15 to 16 point range. He's not an absolute stud right now. I understand a lot of people drafted him at the end of the first or early second round, but right now, the way it's starting, he doesn't look that. But don't overreact. It is week 1, now going into week 2. We can't overreact yet. Let's see where trends are going. Let's see how players are adapting, and let's get right into focusing on what your draft had done for you. And again, what these players' floors are typically at. Now, another running back I like this week is going to be Najee Harris versus the Broncos. Broncos struggled against the run in week 1. They allowed over 100 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns to the backs. Both Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker scored. Najee didn't play great against Atlanta, and I do contribute some of that to the O-line play, which is, again, something that I've been talking about on the offseason. The Steelers' offensive line worries me. It does take time for them to gel. You'll probably see some better O-line play from them week 4, week 5. That's kind of where you start to see that harmony and start to see how well they gel together. Giving them the time to gel, though, I still think this is a positive for Najee. Najee had 20 touches on the ground last week, which is great, which means they're going to use him and abuse him. And if he continues to keep getting 20 to 25 touches a game, Najee should be in your lineup. He's got a little bit better matchup this week. Atlanta's not known defensively to be a great run defense. Broncos, again, struggled, like I mentioned before. So I think this is a really good game for the Steelers. I think, obviously, you've got Justin Fields essentially starting this week, which means you've got to put the ball in Najee's hands to help alleviate some of that pressure on Justin Fields. Another running back I like this week is going to be J.K. Dobbins versus the Panthers. Man, did Dobbins surprise a lot of folks this week with 135 yards on the ground, and also only on 10 touches, which was amazing. He finished as RB4 and even saw 3 receptions his way. Yeah, I get it. Gus Edwards was the RB1 coming into the matchup. I don't think he's going to be that this week. J.K. Dobbins definitely showed that he should and probably will be the workhorse for the Chargers. If he does get more opportunities, I think this is going to be a great outing for him this week, especially since Carolina just gave up 22 points to Alvin Kamara. Again, really good matchup. The Carolina Panthers just look like a JV team at this point. I know they're going to get better, but right now they don't look it. Dobbins absolutely was the number one of the best waivers you could grab this week, and of course should be in your lineup. Now, the last running back I'm going to mention as a good start this week is going to be Joe Mixon versus the Bears. Mixon finished week 1 as RB2, only behind Saquon, who had 3 touchdowns compared to Mixon's 1. Mixon led the league in rushing yards with 159 on the ground and also had the most touches with 30 touches. Clearly, the Texans want to use him as a true bell cow, and this week should be the same. Bears allowed Pollard to have a great game, averaging over 5 yards a carry and a touchdown. I thought Bears were going to be a more effective run defense. I thought they're going to be a lot more aggressive. I thought they're going to do a really good job. They have some good linebackers. I love their secondary, but they just made Pollard essentially kind of win that RB1 job. I really thought Tennessee was going to slowly introduce both backs, but Pollard came in there and did an amazing job. And I think Joe Mixon, who just had an amazing week 1, is only going to continue that this week. He should absolutely be a starter this week. Now, as far as the sits go, I've got a couple players in here that you might kind of scratch your head and probably go against what I'm saying, but I just have some good reasons. First one is going to be Rachaad White versus the Lions. White had a decent game finishing as RB16, but again, struggled efficiently. He had 2.1 yards a carry, and the backup, Irving, had 6.9 yards a carry. That's the same O-line. It's the same offensive line. Difference is Bucky Irving looks way more explosive than Rachaad White. Rachaad White, for whatever reason, is struggling. He can't hit the hole. He's not reading his blocks. He's having some issues. His field vision is just not quite there. So that really worries me. And there's a good chance that Rachaad White may lose touches to Irving. Lions are also a tough run defensive team. They kept Kyren Williams to only 14 points, and I get it because of the touchdown, but he only averaged 2.8 yards a carry against the Lions. The touchdown is the only reason why Kyren had some saving grace in week 1's performance, giving you double-digit performances. I think White's going to struggle this week against the Lions. I think it's going to be, again, more of a traditional shootout. Like I mentioned in my quarterback start and sit, I love both quarterbacks. I love Goff a little bit more, especially with the banged-up secondary in Tampa. But Rachaad White's definitely somebody I might want to sit. Keeping it in Florida, the other running back I'm going to sit this week if I can is Travis Etienne. He's going against the Browns. Etienne is still the RB1 so far for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but he lost a lot of snaps to Bigsby, who looked a lot more efficient. Now, Etienne is still the clear-cut RB1 as of right now, and he is obviously a good pass-catching back, so I still think he's got some good value, but this is a really tough matchup against the Browns. Etienne also only averaged 3.7 yards a carry and was able to score, which helped him hit his double digits. But again, he fumbled. That is something he's dealt with in the past. If he continues to have those type of concerns, he's not efficient, which is something he's shown before. He's had some fumbling issues. There's a good chance Bigsby ends up having more of a presence in this offense, and that worries me a lot. Travis Etienne, if I can, I'm sitting him this week. Another running back who did really well last week, but I'm going to sit this week, is going to be Aaron Jones. He's going against the 49ers, which is a very tough matchup. I get it's hard to bench Jones. He had a great week 1. He finished as RB9. He averaged 6.7 yards a carry. But that matchup is going to be tough. I get Breece Hall had a good matchup against, or at least a good performance against the 49ers. He finished with 18 points. But that was due to the touchdown and, of course, the 7 receptions. He was not effective on the ground. He only averaged 3.4 yards a carry, and that's going to be something Aaron Jones is going to have to deal with this week. And realistically, with Addison most likely out, lots of the pressure is going to be put on Sam Darnold. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is going to be probably double covered. This defensive scheme is a really good one. They're going to obviously get their playmakers out of the way, which means Aaron Jones and Jefferson are probably going to be big priorities for them to focus on, which means everything's on Sam Darnold. Aaron Jones may have some saving grace because of the pass catching ability, and that's something that Breece Hall helped obviously last week in week 1, but I would try to sit him if I can. And the last running back, which again is going to be a shocker for most of you, I don't like Ramondre Stevenson's matchup this week against the Seahawks. Seahawks only allowed an average of 3 yards a carry and didn't give a touchdown to the backs. Stevenson had a great game and will be a focal point against Seattle, but this is a wall that I don't think Ramondre Stevenson goes against. I don't think he's going to have the success that he hopes to have. Bengals are not a great defense. I was a lot more shocked with Ramondre. I did have some high hopes for Ramondre this year. I think he's going to be a bell cow. I think he's going to have value. I think Gibson might increase his value in this game just because I think the Seahawks could end up being up, even though we had expected that same thing for the Bengals. I do think the Seahawks will be increasing the passing, which means Gibson might have a little more value. But I'm not crazy about this matchup for Stevenson. And a lot of you probably had so low expectations for him anyways, and he obviously had a great game in week 1. You guys are probably going to start him this week. But if you have other running backs, I would consider putting Stevenson maybe at the flex, but I'm going to sit him if I can. Now, as far as my sleepers, I've got Tony Pollard versus the Jets. I know the Jets defense is really good, but they just let Jordan Mason go crazy. Now, a lot of it is scheme. The 49ers and Shanahan just do a great job of scheming and being able to do zone blocking. They're just great at the run. So I'm not taking anything away from Jordan Mason because I think Jordan Mason played very, very well, but he's in a perfect situation. But I still think Pollard has some success against this Jets defense. I think he is going to have some value, especially in the pass catching realm. And I like him this week as a nice little sleeper. And speaking of Jordan Mason, I have him as a nice little sleeper. Now, he may be a slam dunk, start for you guys, which makes sense. I know there's a lot of uncertainty what's going on with Christian McCaffrey. There's obviously the tendonitis, which could take, another week or two out, or I've even seen some articles where it might be a few months. We're not really sure. As of right now, what we know is that there's a long shot that Christian McCaffrey's not playing, which means Jordan Mason is getting the start again this week. So there's no surprise. There's not going to be that crazy Monday night surprise. But I do like this matchup against the Vikings. I think the Vikings are a mid to above average team when it comes to defensively, and I like to see a little bit more out of them, but I do like Jordan Mason as a nice little sleeper this week. So this is my start, sits, and sleepers for the running back position. Again, if you have questions, hit me up in the comments down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel because we're going to put a lot of content out this week and, of course, for the rest of the season. So I want to make sure you guys are getting the best you possibly can to have a successful season. Of course, if you hit the like button while you're at it, and I'll check you guys out next time.